Are we alive? We're alive! Incredible. Hello, friends. Welcome back. Again.
Oops!
Oops! Indeed, Snake. Oops. Indeed. So we may be dealing with technical difficulties tonight. Because I wanted to show you, my staff. Gaze upon it. It's not. It's much bigger than this. Why is stream buying lagging? Because I'm bad at streaming. Nice staff, thank you. It's very cool. It's like this big. I'm a cool wizard child creature. It's very bright. Lendar, the staff of the Earth Angel. I straight up ripped it from Final Fantasy XIV. One of my favorite games. Maybe we should play that. That'd be fun. So do you like my logo? It's really tiny there, but it's still, you can see it. I'm gonna put it on my Twitter later. I might put it on my Twitch over this background here. Actually, you know what? That would be wise to just do instead of.
Florida is a very loud place.
It is a very loud place. I made that one free so you would just spook me with, well, Florida is a really loud place. Because it'd be funny. We could watch Salmonella, which would honestly be pretty cool. Not gonna lie. Or, call me crazy, we do both. Let's have a poll of me versus you. You psychopath. You're in? Okay. Let me put myself back where I was. Nope. What did I just grab? Oh, that's not what I wanted to grab. I need to grab me. Where is me? There, no, that's not Vump. We need B-Tube. We don't need Vump. Despite the fact B-Tube and Vump are the same command on my OBS. Now I need a browser source. There are consequences to playing both? No. No, not a browser source. We need a Windows source. Wait, did you put... Oh, wait. Fake Snake... Oh, there he is. Didn't realize what you're getting into. I do know what I'm getting into. Because it was most of the period of time between when I was 13 and now. What was I doing? Oh yes, browser source. There it is. No, not browser source. I wanted Windows source. Everyone, I may be a little retarded, in the words of Alex Jones, even though he is a bastard. Hey, look, it's my Twitch. Here, let me... I don't know what that just would have shown. I'm curious. I'm gonna do it again. I don't know which emotion that was. Was it Engie? YouTube.com.
Name? Address? Gender? What is this, Soviet Russia?
Sam O'Nella. Let's start with Timothy Dexter, a classic.
This video is sponsored by Skillshare.
I've kind of put that over chat. Oh no, why am I red?
The best part is that when
No,
he got
poop!
This video is sponsored by Skillshare.
Am I red? No. There we go. Put that
Hey
there.
kids, now we all know that fate is a
I'm gonna
fickle
put on
thing. Some of
headphones.
us may
Hold
try
on.
to defy its will, but there's enough small businesses with Pizza Hut roofs out there to tell you that such a thing is ultimately futile. As for most of us, we tend to have our fair share of good and bad luck throughout our lives, but every now and then, RN Jesus smiles upon some
There we go.
drooling little loaf child and says, "You, my son, you shall be
Now,
the one
to
with
turn on
all
Final
the
Fantasy.
figgy pudding." That child was Timothy Dexter. Dexter was born in Malden, Massachusetts in 1747. He had a humble upbringing, dropping out of school as an 8-year-old to work as a farmhand and a leather worker. But Dexter thought he deserved better, so when he grew up, he married one Elizabeth Frothingham, a rich widow in need of company. Gold digging achieved, he began his quest to become a true aristocrat. As his first step, he thinks, all the rich guys I know are in positions of power. I should run for office. Now, the town of Malden wasn't much keen on appointing a bumbling second-grade dropout, but after rejecting dozens of petitions sent in
Yeah,
by
I
Dexter,
remember
they
Sigmund
eventually
Freud's
gave
video,
up
but
and
we're not
decided to
watching
just
that,
make some
or I
shit up,
too will
leading
be
to Dexter
banned.
becoming the official
I have to
informer
turn
of
that
Deere, testing
way
him
down
with logs on the
because
local
it's
Deere
deafening me.
over statistics
But we're gonna have
of
Final
Dexter
Fantasy basically
Dexter
muted.
ruled with an iron fist, triumphantly concluding what many had already known, that there weren't any deer in Malden, Massachusetts. Satisfied with his political career, Dexter then set his sights on greater financial ventures. So a little history, in 1775, as part of our growing independence from Britain, the Continental Congress decided to establish their own currency, known as the Continental Dollar, real creative there. Then the Revolutionary War started, and it dawned on people that these pieces of paper would be
But
very useful in
Sam
a
O'Nella, so even the problematic part was funny. Indeed, because Sam O'Nella is very funny. Final Fantasy is very loud. Hold on, let me not do that real quick, so we can actually listen to the video. It's client settings. Here, let me load in. No, cute. That won't take long. Oh, hi, Pocky. Welcome, welcome. Okay, it's taking too long, and I want to turn down the game first. Master volume. 0.
Every high schooler learns is stupid, not invading Russia in winter, but the other one, practically making them worth less than their weight in paper and ink. And wouldn't you know it, a good portion of the Continental Army was paid with these. So by the time the war
There.
ended, many veterans were left totally destitute. The aristocrats,
George
like
Washington.
grass-eating Untermenches, did kind of give us
How's it going, Pocky? How is Panama City? Why am I angry?
take this trash off their hands. Dexter was like, ooh, I'm a wealthman. I'm gonna do
Uh-oh,
that too.
no.
And he spent the majority of his savings
No.
buying a boatload
No.
after boatload
No.
of the 17
There.
equivalent of Blockbuster gift cards. By all accounts, this should have
I
been
might
approved,
need to
but
cut
by
off
some
my
sort of
thumb.
luck, after the Constitution was ratified, the new government decided that they'd trade Continental
The
for
width.
treasury
Panama City is pretty. It looks pretty in all the pictures you've sent.
bonds. Like much, but keep in mind, Dexter bought thousands
Does it
of
have any, like, gross, normal
So his
city part?
buybacks began across the country. His stockpile
Hold on,
developed and
sorry.
faded massively in value, and this informer of Deere realized that
There are a lot of dead fish right now on the beach.
bucks and mulch
Yeah, you said it was a red tide, right?
man of the upper crust doesn't mean he let it go to his head. Sure, he might have purchased the most luxurious chateau that money could buy.
Because if it is red tide, then that would make sense for there to be a ton of dead fish.
One of which was of himself, with a plaque calling
Tobacco.
in the Western
Philosopher.
Despite his incredibly tacky displays of wealth, his contemptuous contemporaries still saw him for the last
Dead fish are delicious. You are correct.
giving him deliberately awful investment tips in order to get him to bankrupt
Drink
himself.
white women in their 30s at all the restaurants.
Caribbean. For those of you born after 1850, a warming pan's this
You mean
dish
drunk?
with a hole that you fill up with
Are you drunk currently?
not much use in a tropical paradise, but Dexter was
Yelling at the bartenders? Oh no, that became far less fun.
40,000 of them to the West Indies. When they arrived, the locals didn't
Oh,
really know
I
what they
died.
were looking at.
There
and
we
decided
go.
to use them as ladles for the sugar and molasses refineries. And by the end of it, Dexter sold every single one at a markup of
That okay? That one opens my social tab. Good to know.
told him to literally carry coal to Newcastle.
I'm gonna
Another
assume.
idiom used to describe a pointless task based off the fact that
Oh
Newcastle was
yes.
the world's biggest producers of coal. The only
We're
idioms
literally
Dexter
doing.
found all involved different
Well,
methods
this
shipping
one will have to
so they
wait.
took their word on good faith and went along with it. But by
Don't
some
want to use
divine
tank.
providence, by the time the
We'll
shipment
just go
arrived,
for it.
the Newcastle coal miners had all gone on strike, and Dexter once again cleared the entire shipment.
Are
with
there?
heavy
Please don't be
profits.
Karens.
He's like, "Man,
I would like to
By this
speak to the
point, he was
ghost
pretty confident in
manager.
his speculation skills, so he started
Sir?
making seemingly far-fetched ventures all by himself. One time he had a bunch of stray cats rounded up for basically
Also, is the me versus Sam like okay?
They were gobbled up en masse, not like eaten, but purchased to deal with all the rat infestations. In another instance, he bought up just about every whalebone in Boston.
Please don't go all nice guy on us,
Sometime
Pocky.
in France, men started wearing corsets too for some reason. Demand went way up. Dexter's laughing. Now, from an outside perspective, at the end of the day, Dexter was a very shrewd merchant. So at this point in my research, I was like, wait a minute, is he smart? Then I learned about his life outside of business. Dexter considered himself extremely knowledgeable on just about every topic. Keywords
Considered himself, yes.
Stumbled upon a guy
I consider myself a
a
moron.
Jefferson. And when he saw that the sign called Jefferson, the writer of the Declaration of Independence, Dexter lost his frickin' mind and insisted that Jefferson did not pen the DOI, but rather the Constitution.
Also, this is gonna be incredibly boring. I don't know why I chose to do this, but now we're stuck here.
Only like 10 years after the fact. That's like someone today saying, Obama didn't kill Bin Laden, dumbass. That was Bill Clinton. Anyway, when the painter refused to change the inscription, Dexter started shooting at him with a long rifle until he complied. Real genteel. Dexter made sure to surround himself with the requisite number of weirdos to maintain this level of delusion. One of which
Turn
was
up the volume of Sam. That's fair.
Dexter paid to be his poet laureate, writing only the most laudatory odes in his honor. This wasn't just
Thank
your
you.
run-of-the-mill wizened wizened wordsmith. Jonathan
We've been
sold fish
oopsed.
for a living and porn. He just kind of went along with the whole thing for the pocket change. Besides his entourage, Dexter occasionally spent time with the total geeds known as his family. He had 2 children, whom the New England Historical Society describes as a half-mad drunk and a completely mad drunk, respectively. And he couldn't stand his wife on account of her perceived constant nagging, to the point where he would tell guests
Ah,
he was
poop.
unmarried and
No.
that he just had a ghost in his house. Just like, oh yeah, that's a sea hag. You know, mansion built on some old Indian shipwreck or something. Timmy, please. I'm cold and my hands are rheumatic. Find it in your heart to light the fireplace for me. Yeah, plenty of that in hell, you banshee bitch. One day, in a massive stroke of ego,
Run
Dexter
through the
decided to
dungeon.
fake his own death, complete with a lavish funeral service just to see who would show up. Lucky for him, about 3,000 people from all walks of life turned up. Though initially staying out of sight, he soon noticed that his wife wasn't crying. So in response, he jumped out and started hitting her upside the head with a cane in front of everybody. But as his true mortality grew closer, Dexter knew he needed a legacy and decided to pen his memoirs, titled A Pickle for the Knowing Ones, which was basically just 20 pages of unhinged ranting about politics.
It's the greatest
religion,
book
his
in
wife,
the
and
entire
whatever else came
world.
to mind. No punctuation, random capitalization, the most amazing spelling I've ever seen. Here's some excerpts. George Washington, attitude, philosopher, tobacco, general. And this is all just in the
General.
first few lines. The entire book is written like this. And just like everything else the guy did, the thing sold like fucking hotcakes. Why does anybody even try? The best part is that when he got complaints about the total lack of grammatical anything, in the second edition of the book, he put an extra page at the end full of nothing but punctuation marks, with a little note saying that anyone who felt like whining could
Good
just stick 'em
video.
wherever they wanted. Dexter died in 1806, and by and large, he probably should have ended up in Davy Jones's locker. But given the circumstances, I imagine the big man upstairs dropped his big deck of mortal soul trading cards at just the right moment, letting him slip through the pearly gates undetected. And legend has it that to this day, if you pray to the name Timothy
Please.
Dexter, he'll look upon you kindly and share his skills with you all.
Okay, good.
Wait a minute.
You did digging. What kind of digging?
Skill. Skillshare is an online learning
I'm not
community
sponsored
with
by
over
Skillshare.
25,000 classes in design, business, technology, and more. Premium membership gives you unlimited access to high-quality classes.
But
on
we're gonna
no-cost
play
so you
this.
can improve your
At least
skills,
this time.
unlock new opportunities, and
Because
do the work you
Sam
love.
needs it.
If you're like me, you're probably tired of sitting in a festering miasma of voice stink and
What's
drool
that,
clouds
Snake?
all day. Such a thing could be easily remedied with a houseplant known to improve air quality. But you don't know
Oh,
which
yeah,
few
we wanna know
species
as well.
survive on what meager light slips through the cracks of your squalid cave. If you give happy houseplants a try, I'm sure your dorm or apartment will start to show signs of non-insect life before you know it. Join the more than 7 million people
Full
already learning
PhD
today with a
cop.
special offer just for
Oh,
you.
nice!
While
You
Skillshare
found
is
a full
normally less than
copy
$10 a month,
of
everyone who
Pickle
visits
for the
link
Knowing
in
Ones.
description can get 2 months of unlimited access to their 25,000
Misspellings
classes
and
for
all.
absolutely free. So
As
please, quit your public
the
McTuition
man
and get your
intended.
private free tuition today. Anyway, that's all for today. Till next time, I'm Salmonella, and thank you for watching.
Boop. Let's go with Scandalous Popes.
This video is sponsored by Skillshare.
Oh, I've been stay hydrated. I need, because my mouth is like dry.
Hey kids, time to alienate 23.9% of the United States from my potential audience, because today, we're talking popes. Now don't get me wrong, the modern papacy is a great thing. Just a genuinely virtuous man being elected to govern and set an
Water.
example for Christians everywhere. That's awesome. But back in the day...
Of course,
not so.
put it in the
In the
Discord.
Middle Ages, the church was one of the greatest powers in the Western world, having massive influence over monarchs and laymen alike. And as we know, with great power comes great tomfoolery. Here's some of the less wholesome popes that history has to offer. Pope Stephen VI assumed the pontificate in May of 896, during a time of great instability for the papacy, where rulers and families of all different shapes and sizes were vying for influence over the Catholic Church. As such, successive popes from this period often had different ideas about how things should be run.
Forgive me.
Stephen, for example, didn't much care for Pope Formosus, the guy before last. Why? It's complicated. Even if I could wrap my head around all this, it'd probably be boring as hell. So just take it on good faith that Steve had a lot of beef with Formosus. So much beef.
Dante's
or as we
Inferno
call it,
on
Papal Bull,
PDF.
that Stephen couldn't even be happy that the dude was already dead. So he had the 8-month-old corpse of Formosus dug up, dressed up in Pope clothes, sat down on a throne, and literally put on trial.
I
with a
like his
deacon appointed to
face.
give all his responses
It's
for him.
very cool.
So you thought you could get away
But then
from
in the
the
modern
law
stuff, the
with that
face
little
underneath is
dying
very
stuff of
nice.
yours. Well, tell me, Mr. Thrombosis, did you violate canon law, commit perjury, and pretend to be a bishop when you weren't? Yes, pasta fazool, I am a fool. I've heard all I need to hear.
Pasta
This court finds you
fazool,
guilty, and
I am
everything
a
you did as
fool.
Pope, we legally
Blurb.
declare to be fake and dumb and stupid and dumb. Now throw him in the river. What? The river? Can he do that? See the hat? That means I'm Pope. P-O-O-P Pope. You better 3-point that bitch
Poop.
into the briny deep right quick, or I'm gonna raise hell. Metaphorically. So they throw him in the river. This whole thing caused
Literally.
an uproar among Formosus supporters, and after Formosus' corpse was allegedly seen performing miracles at the riverbank, Stephen ended up being overthrown, imprisoned, and executed by strangulation. The body, now slimy and disgusting, was fished out of the Tiber and reinterred in St. Peter's Basilica, where it rests to this day. Next, we'll talk about John the 12th. This guy already looks like one of my characters. Why don't we just, yeah, there we go. This guy ascended to the throne when he was just 18 years old, which is insane. If I was elected world's biggest hat wearer at that age, you better believe
You cannot
things would
skip the
get real
cutscenes
unstable
here.
real quick.
This
I'm
is the
talking
most
gambling,
boring dungeon in the
hunters,
game.
setting fires and toasting to the devil. And when you know it, these are all things John the 12th did. It said that he took the sacred palace and literally made it into a whorehouse. Matter of fact, while researching the guy, I stumbled across this list of sexually active popes. This is a real Wikipedia article. Take a hike, toilet paper orientation. Daddy's got a new favorite. John is featured
did we
prominently
die
on the list,
again?
of course. He had a thing for widows for some reason. Personally, I'm not big on weepy old hags. I'm more of a carefree young hag type of guy, but to each their own. He also banged his niece a bunch, which not the most virtuous act, but you know, in the Middle Ages, bloodlines.
Oops!
His playboy lifestyle
Oops.
eventually caught up to him, though,
We
leading to the
oopsed.
Synod of Rome, where everyone got together
We're
to talk
alive?
about what a piece of shit he is, so they could kick him off the throne. Besides all the deviancy, there was a lot of things. That
Good,
were
we're
problems.
alive.
For one, someone once offered John some money to ordain a 10-year-old as a bishop, and he was just like, "Alright, I would have done it for
Don't
free,
leave.
honestly.
Thank
Look how
you.
big those robes are on him. That's hilarious." He also had a deacon ordained in a horse stable, just like, oh, for fuck's sake, alright, let's get this over with. Shouldn't we be doing this in like a church? Listen, bucko, if it's good enough for Jesus to be born in, it's good enough for you to have your little cardinal party. No, sir, not cardinal, he's just a deacon. Not if you keep running your mouth, you aren't. He also like going on hunting trips now and then, generally considered to be something popes don't do. Although my suspicion is that they were just tired of cleaning his big stupid camo hat every time. Probably his worst act, though, was putting on a helmet, followed closely in second by the time one of his subdeacons got on his nerves, so he literally cut off his dick and murdered him. So between all this and some conflicts with Otto I of the Holy Roman Empire, John was uncanonically ousted in 963. Except as soon as
Ooh,
Otto
you sense
left
it.
Rome, nobody was
Amazing.
there to pressure him off physically anymore. So John was like, lol, just kidding, rounded up all his groupies, kicked the new pope off the throne, and continued his role like nothing happened by early 964. But just a few months later, fate caught up with John, and he died the way he lived, committing adultery. Now let's be real, we all have our little guilty pleasures in life. Some people like a nice bag of Cheetos, others like scented candles, or poorly drawn educational videos. Alexander VI liked watching horses fuck.
Incredible.
According to Vatican chronicler Johann Burckhardt, he would
Florida
specifically
is a very
arrange for
loud
his
place.
stallions to
It
be
is a very
introduced
loud
to
place,
mares
you're
and
right.
sheep outside his palace, and he'd stand up on his balcony to watch them violently mate, which just tickled him pink for some fucking reason, and he'd laugh uproariously during the entire spectacle. He also once threw a party in the palace called the Banquet of Chestnuts, also referred to as the Joust of Whores. Wait a minute, whores jousting, horses banging. Was dyslexia a thing back then? Nah, but during the banquet, Alexander had 50 of Rome's finest raggedy harlots.
I seriously don't know why I chose to do this dungeon,
Which, by the way,
of all
included
things.
2 of his children, which, by the way, he had many children, but at this point hardly a concern. Guests began throwing chestnuts at the ladies, who got down on their hands and knees and scrambled frantically, like the cook at Denny's when they held him at gunpoint, trying to collect as many as they could. After this went on for a while, Alexander was like, alright kiddos, game time. Whoever can bang the most broads before the night's over wins Rome's finest silks, and the only condition is that anybody who makes a joke about nutting on someone's chest gets disqualified. It's too easy. This is all according to that one Johann guy, mind you. Some secondary sources differ pretty significantly on the more lurid details of all this, so do take it with a grain of salt. But at the same
But
time,
now we're in a
this guy
mech.
was the official record taker for the ceremonies he was involved with, so it seems equally likely to me that the other guys just wanted to save a bit of face, but who knows? In the end, sources are usually the most reputable source of information. After all, what better way to learn about stuff than from people who have direct experience in the subject? That's why you need to try Skillshare.
Skillshare.
An online learning
Yeah.
community with
I'm
over
gonna be mean. I'm
25,000
sorry,
classes.
Sam. I don't want to hear about Skillshare. Let's go with Fidel Castro.
Hey kids, let's talk about Fidel Castro. We're all familiar with Castro, right? Dictator of Cuba for the whole second half of the 20th century, main antagonist of the Cuban Missile Crisis, you know. Anyway, this man loves 3 things. He loves Cuba, he loves communism, and good God, does the man love dairy. Yep, you heard me right. The all-powerful dictator of communist Cuba is obsessed with anything related to milk and its derivatives. I drew up a little chart here, right? I call it the Leche Lovin' Ladder. At the bottom you got dairy farmers, then you got Ross O'Donovan, then Mr. Bones, then starving babies, and then all the way up at the top here, you got Fidel Castro. Today, I'm going to share a few true stories that illustrate his preoccupation. Okay, the first one isn't really a story so much as a fact, but according to several sources, Castro was known to be able to eat 18 scoops of ice cream after a meal. That's more than 2 pints. If that doesn't impress you, then go try it for yourself. Me, I can barely manage a pint and a half on an empty stomach, and Castro's doing it on top of a full meal. But it gets better. Being such an ice cream connoisseur, Castro ordered the construction of an ice cream shop. But this isn't your average everyday parlor, not by
Hello.
a long shot.
That sound by
Straight up
Oops.
ice
Yes,
cream
Oops is great.
complex taking up an entire city block. This was a piece of modern architecture too, in total contrast to the surrounding slums, all for the sake of ice cream.
Please. Oh, I have to
This is
punch it.
called Copelia, and it's still open today. Of course, Castro's obsession went beyond just personal pleasure. Dairy was so dear to him that it often found its way into diplomatic interactions. Like one time, a French diplomat came to visit, so Castro whips out some Cuban cheese. Specifically, though, it was Camembert cheese, a variety that France is famous for. The French guy was like, hey, not bad, it's almost as good as the French kind. Try it again. I think you'll find it's even better than the French. Alright, I won't say that. I'm sorry, are you disrespecting my cheese? In
my house on my island? No, I mean it's good. I just said the French kind is better. Maybe if you froggy fucks bathed once in a while, you'd be able to taste the cheese instead of your own BO. Listen, you've got your cigars, we've got our cheese. Live with it. Fine.
I must know what has been sent in my Discord.
I'm paraphrasing just a little bit, but that's basically how it went down.
PDF
So already
copy.
it's obvious that
Holy crap, it's amazing.
Castro. Most exceptional, however, is how this value reflected
I'm gonna read
naturally
Pickle for the Knowing Ones.
at his disposal. Castro wanted to bolster the Cuban dairy industry as much as possible, but there was one problem. Cuba initially had two types of cows called La Reinas and Zebus. La Reinas
To mankind at large, the time is come. At last, the great day of rejoicing. What is that? Why, I will tell you, thou's 3 kings is raced, you mean should know, raced on the first royal arch in the almost, not quite, but very who hew up upon, so they are good mark to I'm so sorry. Literally playing a video at the same time.
At this point, your average run-of-the-mill dairy queen would have given up. But Castro, he's more than that. He's a dairy dictator. So he ordered the construction of a giant air-conditioned complex with the sole purpose of providing a comfortable environment for his Holsteins. And it helped a little bit, but they were still stressed out. They still weren't putting out at their natural levels. And as you can imagine, climate controlling an entire facility is very expensive, so Castro was forced to abandon the project. But like the astronaut he is, Castro held on to his dream of finding the Milky Way. So he gathered a team of scientists and farmers and ordered them to breed together the Zebus and the Holsteins in order to produce a heat-resistant, lactose-pumping super cow. The breeding efforts were mostly a bust, never producing the bovine masterpiece
Okay,
that Castro longed for.
transcriber's note. The block of punctuation on a page by itself is inexplicably left unexplained in this edition. Dexter wrote before it in the second edition. Founder Mr. Printer, the knowing ones, complain of my book with the book. The first edition had no stops. I put in enough here, and they may pepper and salt it as they please.
Levels of cow worship that Castro performed. Daily updates were published in the Cuban national newspaper describing Ubre Blanca's health and productivity. And when she died in 1985, Castro commissioned a giant marble statue of the cow in her honor. He also had scientists harvest tissue and egg samples for the sake of preserving her DNA. After Ubre Blanca's death, Castro's plans for the Cuban dairy industry got even more desperate and ridiculous somehow. This is based off of an actual conversation that he had with his team of scientists in 1987. Okay guys, hear me out. What if we make cows that are the size of dogs, so that way they can live in people's apartments with them? Fidel, I don't think that's gonna work. No, it'll work. You just have to grow grass in the apartment too. You can't be serious. Yeah, you just gotta put up some fluorescent lights. Bam, little grazing patch for your doggy cow. You are a fucking lunatic. And obviously nothing ever came of that idea. And Cuba's dairy industry is still floundering today, sadly. So yeah, if you haven't gotten the picture by now, the dude likes milk. Imagine he's at the birth of his grandson, right? Ah, what a beautiful baby boy. Fidel, there's something we need to tell you. Your grandson, he's lactose intolerant. Prepare the firing squad. Anyway, there's plenty of other miscellaneous stories surrounding his little preoccupation, like the time the CIA tried to poison his milkshake, so I just decided to highlight a few big ones. Anyway, that's all for today. Till next time, I'm Sam Manella, and thank you for watching.
Forgive me, I needed to speak to my mother. Final Fantasy IV, kinda? If you're not doing this specific mission, this is the worst dungeon in the game that I chose to do. He's just typing things or things. Maybe I should make that like a follower reward is at like 200 or something. I read A Pickle for the Knowing Ones in its entirety.
In more ways than one. But imagine if these men didn't adopt this habit just for fun. Imagine if some gross biological error forced them to eat like this for their entire life. Introducing Terrare. Terrare was
The last
born in
podcast
France
on the
around
left recently did a thing
1772
about
to a
Terrare.
farming family. It's said
was
that
great.
his appetite was so voracious that, by his teens, Terrare could eat an entire quarter of a cow carcass in a single day.
Did-
You'd think he'd
Terrare,
be like
look at
mega
me.
obese, but
Did
no,
you
he only
eat
weighed
a
100
fucking
pounds by age
baby?
17. However, there were still a few things that stood out about Terrare appearance-wise. For one, he had a huge, stretched-out mouth with horribly stained teeth. He could reportedly fit 12 eggs in his cheeks at once, much like a chipmunk keeping its chipmunk eggs warm. Additionally, when Terrare
Chipmunk
was full,
eggs.
he'd get a crazy octomom gut going, and any other time, he'd have a huge flap of stretched-out skin hanging around his waist. He also stank to high hell, even by 18th century French peasant standards. He was described as reeking, quote, to such a degree that he could not be endured within the distance of 20 paces. So between all this and his horrendous outhouse flooding dumps, his family had had enough. Alright, you're eating us out of house and home here. You gotta go, man. You heard me. Kick bricks, Froggy. Wow, he just called a French person a frog. That's so racist. No, it's not. They're all French. The guy just looks like a frog is all. Oh. Well, too late. I'm already offended. That's fair. Dislike. After leaving home, Terrare was forced to beg and steal just to satisfy his gargantuan appetite. Inevitably, people began to take notice of him, and eventually he landed a job as a street performer in Paris. People would hand Terrare entire baskets
I
of
made it.
apples, eggs, and even wine corks, and watch in delight as he horked them down without the slightest hesitation. Normally, this went off without a hitch, except for one time when he suffered a severe...
You're making a soundbite of,
Fortunately,
did you
the crowd
eat
was
a
kind enough to carry
fucking
him to a
baby?
hospital where he was treated with the strongest laxatives the 18th century had to offer. I would draw what happened next, but it would probably get my channel deleted, so let's just picture it for a few moments. Moving on. Cut to the year 1790.
If you wish to use it,
This
that
marks
is.
the beginning of the
I
War
don't
of the
think
First
I'd have
World
any
War.
use for
Heard of
Did You
it?
Eat a
Me
Fucking
neither.
Baby?
Talking to everyone. Anyway, Terrare decided to enlist in the war. After all,
It's a good
making
soundbite, but I don't think I'd have a use
just
for
lack
it.
of purpose in life. Turns out, no, he really was just psychotically hungry. Even after being granted quadruple rations, Terrare would still be digging through the trash pile whenever he got the chance. After suffering extreme exhaustion, he was sent off to the military.
420 man.
The staff
Where does
was so
420
dumbfounded
come
by the
from?
man's abilities that
I
they
don't
decided
actually
to keep
know.
him there to run a few experiments. The first of which involved putting Terrare in a room with a meal prepared for 15 people. Naturally, he ate the entire thing and
Ew,
immediately
oops,
fell asleep.
indeed.
Next, they presented him with a raw eel. In response, Terrare crushed the eel's skull between his teeth before slurping down the entire creature in one go. Now, this is hair-clenchingly horrifying for a couple of reasons. Firstly, he put a whole frickin' eel in his stomach. but
Weed
secondly,
number.
there
Yeah, but
had to be
why
some
is it the
point
weed
during
number?
digestion where
I
the
know
meat
it's the
was
weed
gone,
number.
but the bones still
Why
Now,
is
for
it the
those of
weed
you who don't
number?
know, an eel skeleton looks like this. That means Terrare had all of those needle-sized
Is
ribs
it?
stabbing into the walls of his stomach at once, and he was fine. He also ripped a live cat apart with his bare hands, drank its blood, and ate everything but its bones, and then later gagged up the fur and skin like an owl, but, you know, that's neither here nor there.
Origin. Apparently
After
coined as a
Terrare
code
left
word
to
by
the
high school
science
students in
conclusion
San
that,
Rafael, California
we got a
in
goddamn
1971
eagle
with
already.
reference
As
to
we all
4:20
know,
p.m., the
the
time at
work
which
is
they regularly
done
met to
with
try and locate
responsibility.
an
Since Terrare
unattended
was still
plot
technically
of
enlisted, the
cannabis
military decided
plants.
to utilize his
I
abilities
see.
for the greater good. Hey Terrare, it's me, the general.
420
Listen, could
blaze
you
it.
get this box with a note in it for me? If you do it, we'll give you a wheelbarrow full of bull organs. Lo and behold, 2 days later, he passed the container in mint condition and was given his reward as promised. With this proof of concept,
How
they
did
made
you
him an official
poop
spy and sent
a
him to prison
box?
with a document in his belly to be delivered
doesn't
to
work.
the French colonel. Unfortunately, there are a couple things
Gotta sit
Terrare
through the
couldn't do
longest
that were generally
cutscene
important when sneaking into
in the
another
game.
A, he couldn't speak German, and B, it's pretty hard to maintain a low profile when you're running around like a madman, wolfing down garbage and mutilating small animals. So he ended up being captured by the enemy. Initially, he kept his mouth shut, for once, but after a whipping and a day in jail, Terrare gave in. After confessing that he did, in fact, have vital intelligence snaking its way through his GI tract, the Prussians chained him to a latrine until the box emerged 30 hours later. The note wasn't actually anything important, so they just mock-executed him, gave him a severe beating, and sent him on his way. After all that, Terrare returned to life at the hospital, desperate for a cure for his condition, but nothing they ever tried worked. Meanwhile, the man's endless hunger continued to get him into all sorts of trouble. He'd often sneak out of the hospital to eat the scraps behind the local butcher, fight stray dogs in the alley.
He must have an ass so large it makes Kim K look like Paris Hilton.
In order to take all their life juice for himself. On several occasions, he was even caught attempting to eat bodies in the mortuary. By this point in my research, I was so
I'm not even-
desensitized to this guy that I didn't even bat
We
an
gotta
eyelash.
acknowledge that.
I was just like, alright, guess he must have been hungry. Anyway, the hospital staff begrudgingly tolerated Terrare's buffoonery, until one day when he went too far. Well, Terrare, you've only had 3 mess hall raids, 4 miscellaneous trash-related mishaps, and 1 cadaver defiling. So I'd say, so far, this week's been pretty good. Doctor, we should probably inform you that a 14-month-old child has gone missing from their room. Terrare,
Right?
look at me.
Look at me. Did you eat a fucking baby?
Terrare was promptly kicked out of the hospital and spent
Dude
4
is
years
gluttony
out
from
and about
FMA.
doing, whatever
Speaking
horrific
of
shit
gluttony,
he had.
before my
When
stream
he
today, I
died,
ate an
he
entire
suffered from
pizza.
advanced tuberculosis.
Granted, it wasn't a very
Shortly
big
after
pizza,
arrival.
but you know.
During his autopsy, the surgeons found that when they looked
A
into
Papa
his
John's
mouth, they could see
small
all the way down
gluten-free.
his throat and into his stomach cavity. As you can imagine, his whole abdominal region was profoundly deformed. Basically, if this is a normal human, this is what they found inside Terrare. Just like the man's mind, we can see that around 90% is devoted towards food and 10% towards everything else. So, moral of the story here is that, no, you know what, not even I can find anything resembling a moral here. Not all stories have a point to
Based.
them. Sometimes they're just sad and disgusting from beginning to end. And now a word from our
Based
sponsor.
on
As
what?
you can probably tell, I'm a very visual person when it comes to learning. I firmly believe that engaging visuals are an essential
Laughs
teaching
in
tool that
eating
allows for
6
much
slices
deeper
of Papa
comprehension than
John's.
plain old walls of text.
Large.
That's why I'm pleased to
Oh,
introduce
goodness.
our sponsor, Brilliant.org. We all know that
I am not
math and
sponsored by
science are
Brilliant.
really
Sam Manella is. Go to his link. He killed Garfield.
This video is sponsored by Skillshare.
Hey kids, John Wilkes Booth,
Normal
Lee Harvey
Krusty.
Oswald, Hitler, all people who gained massive notoriety by killing one of history's
Pound
greatest leaders.
my
But there are
Krusty.
2 Americans who committed an equally heinous crime as these 3. Yet their
Are
stories
we
are seldom remembered,
in Rule
mostly because nobody
34?
really cares
Pizza?
about the presidents they killed. Originally, I was going to talk about both of them, but the video ended up being way too long. So today we'll just stick to this one, I guess. Charles J. Guiteau was a pretty silly guy, and to understand how a guy could be so silly, you gotta start with his youth. Guiteau was born in Freeport, Illinois in 1841. His mom had postpartum psychosis and died when he was 7, alongside 3 of his 5 siblings. His dad, meanwhile, was mega religious and made a big point out of instilling those values in his son. Often
Pizza.
physically, this influence molded Charles into a boy who sought nothing short of
Paul's
total
Pizza
approval from others,
Palace.
and who would react
The
very
greatest
harshly to any criticism
pizza
levied upon him.
in
As a
London.
teen, he moved to Ann Arbor,
Should I play
Michigan.
Mystery of the
He tried to get
Druids?
into the University of Michigan, but he goofed on
What
that
is late?
thesis.
What's
He
I don't
did what
know.
anyone in his situation would do
It's
and
the
said,
mystery
well, so
of
much for
the
real life. I'm gonna
Druids.
join a commune.
Always got
Specifically, he
an
became part of the
attitude.
Oneida community in New York. In some aspects, this place was a pretty run-of-the-mill religious
Always
fellowship.
got
From each
an
according to their
attitude.
ability, two
Also,
each
Mystery of the
according to
Druids. That's not why I am a
But there
druid.
were
No,
couple of
D&D.
things that made it special.
But
First off, they followed a doctrine known as Christian perfectionism, whereby everyone would strive to live their lives completely free of sin and reach a divine level of perfection while still on earth. Now, this isn't really
That
unique to
man's
Oneida, but
sleeves
whereas
are
most
glowing.
people would achieve this through staunch discipline and careful self-reflection, these guys would just get together and take turns roasting the shit out of each and every member over any minute flaw they could possibly have. Real great for the psyche. They also practiced what was basically an early form of eugenics, where aspiring parents would have to submit an application and be judged by the committee on their moral and spiritual fortitude. If they were allowed to mate, children would be separated from the mom about a year after birth and raised communally in the children's wing. After all, wouldn't want any of those hopelessly flawed toddlers to think they're deserving of any affection whatsoever. Oneida also believed in what they called free love, which meant that anyone could bang anyone at any time, as long as they kept it hetero, and exclusive relationships of any kind were actually frowned upon, which seems like kind of a weird habit for people trying to 100% FC this whole Christianity thing, but whatever. But wait, you're saying, how can you have selective breeding at the same time as extremely unselective breeding? Aha! See, that's where male continence comes in. Under this rule, a pair could go at it for as long as they wanted, with the caveat that the dude's not allowed to nut, pull out or otherwise. That way, it's not a sin. After all, as the Bible says, if the dick don't spit, you must acquit. Paradoxically, no such rule existed for the women. In fact, not only did the commune believe in female orgasms, they actually prioritized them, which is like unheard of in the 19th century. They'd even have the middle-aged women of the society train the teen boys in the art of holding in the old pelvic sneeze. That way, there wouldn't be any chance of conception in case the guy goofs up his first few tries. So So anyway, young Gito joins this whole thing, and endured countless blows to his massive yet fragile ego, thinking he's at least gonna get a piece of this communal action. Except, the criticism towards him wasn't just a formality like it was for others. Everyone there genuinely fucking hated him, on account of the fact that he was a raving neurotic narcissist. He never caught a single piece of this allegedly free love, and after a while, they all started calling him Charles Get Out in the hopes that he'd leave. This is real. And after 5 long years of this abuse, Gito finally got the hint and moved to New Jersey. He tried starting a newspaper themed around the Oneida religion called the Daily Theocrat, except nobody cared, so that failed. He went back to Oneida and tried to sue the place in order to get back pay for all his voluntary unpaid labor while living there. But apparently I'm Mad Butthurt isn't
Your
enough
channel
reason
could
to
just
prosecute
be Sam and Ella soundbites. It would be 100 times funnier. That's not very nice.
Time to become a lawyer. He managed to pass an examination to gain
But
admission
fair.
to the Illinois bar, and subsequently joined a
I'll
law
just
firm
re-upload
in
Sam and
Chicago
Ella
in
instead of
2017,
trying to
where he
stream or
made
be a
seemingly
personality
one
anymore.
penny bun. Of course, Gito never really got to be a lawyer. He only argued in one actual court case. Most of his time was spent doing bill collection for random clients. This job gave him insight into how debtors think and operate, which allowed him to turn into quite the con man, dodging bills whenever and wherever he saw the opportunity. Even on the job, he'd frequently charge exorbitant contingency fees after the fact, upwards of 75%, and sometimes he'd just keep it all and completely ghost his clients. After all, what are they gonna do? Another bill collector? Well, it turns out they did, so Gito and his wife fled to New York.
I understand.
And started getting into politics. Specifically, he wrote and delivered a speech in favor of Horace Greeley, the 1872
As much as
Democratic
it's kind of like,
President, and he
but you
said
know,
that
it's okay. I forgive
would
you.
be so greatly indebted to him that they'd fulfill his desires to be the minister of Chile, as though a total rando like him could just, name a job and it would be his. In reality, the speech was an incoherent mess heard by next to no one, and Greeley lost by a landslide. As the years passed, Annie got real sick of living life on the run with a broke-ass bitch, and Charles was none too keen on her
Bleh.
running him down either. But back in the
I'm
day,
a
you couldn't
stupid
just divorce someone
bleh.
willy-nilly. You needed a valid reason for it. So Charles concocted the brilliant scheme of banging a prostitute and then having her testify. The plan worked, but the pair
You scared me with that one.
in 1874, and the only downside was syphilis. Whoops. Gito started dabbling in theology again around this time. He published a book called The Truth, which was almost entirely plagiarized directly from John Noyes, the founder of the Oneida community. But despite being a man of God, Gito was still very much a two-time varmint, and moved frequently in the dead of
Finally, we can kill Ultimate Weapon. I don't even need the tombstones.
basically saying, hey,
I'm just doing this for no reason, other than XP, of course.
functioning member of society. To which Charles replied, and I quote, "Find $7 enclosed, stick it up your bunghole, and wipe your nose."
Florida
away,
is a
and
very
that will
loud
remind you of
place.
the
Florida
estimate
is a very
of
loud
URL
place.
by Charles J. Guiteau. God damn, and to his own brother, the Madman. Soon after, he got arrested, bailed out by his sister, lived with her for a few months, attacked her with an axe, went to DC, rambled about religion to anyone who would listen, moved to Boston, got in a boat accident where everyone in his boat was fine, but everyone in the other one fucking died, took this as a sign from God, moved back to New York, and got back into politics in 1880, this time as a Republican. During this campaign, there were two main factions of Republicans, known as the Stalwarts and the Half-Breeds, which sounds like some Tolkien shit, wish we had names like that today. Now, Guiteau considered himself a stalwart, and in a similar vein to his 1872 venture, he wrote a speech to promote
Lightning has
stalwarts.
discovered the sound bites. Life will never be the same again.
Before I got a chance to deliver the speech, one
Please don't
Jim
spam them
Johnson
and make me have to turn it to five bits.
Single-handedly. It was like, rats, how am I gonna get power handed to me now? So he literally just scribbled out all the references to Grant and replaced them with Garfield and was like, yep, that'll do it. He read this speech all of twice, along with handing out copies to the Republican National Committee. In reality, this really didn't accomplish much, but when Garfield managed to win the election, Guiteau was like, yes, that was entirely me. Garfield is in my supreme debt. As God is my witness, he shall make me a consulate in Vienna or Paris or someplace cool like that. He went to DC to await his inevitable appointment, but obviously nothing happened. So he started writing letters. A lot of letters. When that didn't work, he started actually stalking both Garfield and the Secretary of State, James Blaine, intercepting them in hotel lobbies, just being like, oh, hey, yeah, it's me, the sole person responsible for your success. Say, how about a consulship? Alright, you'll get back to me, I get it. Whoa, haha, what a coincidence. Me again. How's that consulship coming? At first they simply ignored him.
So my apologies for just making noise.
Screaming,
I don't really know what to do.
"See you again on the Paris consulship as long as you a disturbance in the force. Maybe daylight savings just made Monday an hour longer. That was quite the wisecrack. It's amazing how you manage to keep things fresh year after year. Burn in hell,
Beige dog.
At this point, Gito completely renounced
Burn
any
in
faith
hell,
eternity
beige
streak,
dog.
and after a lifetime of clout chasing met only with disappointment, he decided his only option
I
was
think
to
they
pursue
should give
his own
Thancred a
course.
beard
He convinced
in
himself that it was
Endwalker.
now God's will to remove Garfield from this
He
mortal plane
deserves
in
it
order to
after
bring
his
Saul
dadly
Wilder's
appointment
presence
in
to Mr.
Shadowbringers.
Adam's power. When he went to buy a revolver, he was given the choice between a wood grip and an ivory grip. He went with the ivory one for no other reason than he thought it would look cooler in a museum. And on July 2nd, 1881, he ambushed Garfield at the Baltimore and Potomac Railroad Station, shooting him twice in the back and mortally wounding him, all because he wouldn't give him a job. Garfield managed to hang on for 11 weeks before finally dying, which sounds like hell. Today's modern physicians actually believe that Garfield could have easily survived the incident if it weren't for doctors digging through him with unsanitized tools. Hey, modern medicine, thanks for not being worse than literally no medicine. It means a lot. But that didn't stop Gito from being formally charged with murder. And that's exactly what he wanted. Matter of fact, Gito was over the moon, taking his new nationwide infamy as the fame he always deserved.
Have we even? Yeah, we fought Ultimate Weapon once.
Hurling obscenities at just about everyone there, including his own defense team, and formatting his testimony as an epic poem which he recited in full. He even dictated an autobiography to the New York Herald, which, get this, he ended with a personal ad for a nice Christian lady under 30 years of age. What a baller. When the guilty verdict was read, he called everybody there low consummate jackasses, and on June 30th, 1882, Gito smiled and waved to his adoring fans as he was walked to the gallows, where he recited a repetitive, deranged poem he wrote that morning, which was
You found a
performed
72
in a
Mustang?
falsetto voice, since it was
Can you
written in the
buy
key
it
of
for
a
me?
child. He asked for a full orchestra to play during
That
the
sounds
festival. I don't
lovely.
tell you that one nowhere. And promptly thereafter, he was hung. When the gallows dropped, people were probably like, "Oh, Jesus, it's finally over. I just came here for a nice little execution. They subject me to all that. I want my money back, frankly." So it just goes to show, you can't always get what you want, unless that thing is getting everyone to hate you. That's extraordinarily easy. But for everything else, you're gonna need a combination of hard work and know-how. While the former must ultimately come from within, there's plenty of resources out
I'm
there.
sorry, Sam. Go to his Skillshare page.
Hey kids, if you've ever been Black Friday shopping or visited the Diablo subreddit recently, chances are you've encountered mass hysteria at some point. Mass hysteria is known medically as mass psychogenic illness, or
Remember
MPI.
Diablo Immortal?
It's basically just when a bunch of
Do you
people
not
start
have
acting full
phones?
for no discernible reason
Send you the
other
link.
than maybe a stressful
I don't live
environment.
anywhere
So
near
it's
Panama
naturally
City.
very noticeable. There's loads of documented cases found all
I
throughout
appreciate it
Let's
though.
take a look at a few. This first one is what made me make this video in the first place. So one day, sometime in the Middle Ages, a group of nuns in a French convent were enjoying a quiet, uneventful day, until one of them decided to start meowing. You know, like a cat. You'd think this would last all of 4 seconds before another nun was like, "Excuse me, Sister Gertrude, would you kindly cut the shit?" But instead, another nun joined in, and another, until basically the entire nunnery was exchanging mouths like a group of communist trading card enthusiasts. This wasn't just a one-time thing either, it basically became integrated.
Salmonella's
into a way of
jokes are
life.
always
It's
great.
said that on a given day, they would stand there meowing in each other's faces for hours at a time. Could you imagine being the first outsider to witness this? You might laugh now, but as they say, everybody gangsta till the nuns start meowing. I poured my
Simply,
mouth and moved
they.
away without even thinking. Miles more terrifying than this pile of garbage. As you can imagine, though, after a while it stopped being scary and just got annoying, leading to the neighbors calling in a band of soldiers to deal with the situation. Hey guys, can we talk to you for a sec about Yeah, that. All due respect,
Yeah.
we have orders to literally
Yeah.
beat the hell out of you with whips till you start acting like people again.
Yeah.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah.
It's just
Meow.
force of habit.
Meow.
Haha, habit.
Meow.
Seriously though, we would rather go to hell for throttling a gaggle of nuns than
Meow.
put up with another minute
Meow.
of your bullshit.
Meow.
Crazy?
Meow.
Our next event
Meow.
took place in the parish of Fatima, Portugal, in the year 1917. It all started with three
I'm sorry.
shepherd children, ages 10, 9, and 7, respectively. They were like, "Greetings, fellow Portugueseites. We've been seeing visions of the Virgin Mary, and she told us to tell you that some real crazy shit's gonna go down in the sky on October 13th. Now, if 3 random farm
Such
farmers started
devastation.
spouting out prophecies to the public today,
This
you'd
was
say, "Oh,
not
what
my
tomfoolery.
intention."
Go play in some dirt, you dirty little dirt baby. But keep in mind, the past is a different country. And Portugal's a different country. So that's like different country squared you gotta think about. Plus, this was during World War I, a time where a lot of people were holding out for a miracle to begin with. So the kid's story was actually
Is
picked
this
up
the
and even
link
spread
to
by
the
local
Mustang?
newspapers.
Conspiracy theory iceberg? Part 1? That's not linked to the car. I was curious. That is very long to part 1, and also I don't want to really indulge the conspiracy right now. That's some other day.
Alleged miracle. Lo and behold, on that day, the sun began zooming around, careening towards Earth and sending rays of
Bleh.
colored light cascading across the sky, creating a light show like nobody's ever seen. Keep in mind, this happened in the 20th century, way after the era where belief in
Upper
divine
gas.
jiggery
Bleh.
or pokery was considered mandatory. So naturally, there were plenty of skeptics and non-believers present, and even they saw it all happen. Or so they thought. How do we know the sun didn't really whiz around haphazardly that day?
I was still in the thing.
Number 1, use your frickin' brain. And number 2, accounts differed wildly from person to person. While some say the sun zigged hither, others say it zagged thither, and others still said it shined a brilliant yellow and stayed perfectly still. As such, it was eventually concluded that the event was just a combination of MPI and weird eye stuff from too much sun staring. Although I'd like to believe it was real, just that Jesus' illusion skill was way higher than his alteration at the time. Yep, that's it. Sam's going to hell. Why, for blasphemy? Trust me, that was the least offensive part of that joke. Our next tale took place in 1962 in Tanganyika, which was basically just the beta version of Tanzania. The nation had just declared its independence from Britain the previous year, and with the future so uncertain, tensions were naturally running high around this time. One little girl in a Tanganyikan school ended up handling the stress in a bit of an unusual way. Rather than overeating or staring at her ceiling for hours like a normal person, she just started laughing, and laughing, and laughing. Pretty soon, her classmates at the all-girls school she attended
I'm gonna
began
get
to join
noir
in.
style
There
art
were
of my new
95
character.
of the
Go for it.
159 students called the Giggalies, which lasted anywhere
Make it
from a
so.
few hours
Give yourself a
to
desk,
16
an
days
office, and a
straight.
gun.
Beyond just the unprovoked cackling, other odd behavior included aimless running and occasional violence. The problem got so severe that the school was forced to close down temporarily, leading to the chortlers roaming the streets, spreading the affliction further. Thousands of people from all strata came to be affected, with 13 additional schools being shut down in the progress. Over the course of the hysteria, several other symptoms began to present themselves as well, ranging from obvious ones such as breathing problems, fainting, random screaming, to more anomalous things like rashes. Despite all this, no physical cause could be
Rashes.
found, leaving MPI as the only explanation.
Type of
The epidemic
gun?
finally died down after between 6 and 18 months.
Good question. What's
Out laughing, depending
What
on
was the most
Well,
used handgun by police in the 1920s?
A lot of the time when I'm alone, I'll think to myself, man, if I ever go full schizo, I hope I'm one of the laughy ones, not one of the screamy ones. With this story in mind, just maybe, if I put my mind to it and believe hard enough, I can be both. Flashback to the year 1518.
Mine? I don't really have a gun of choice. I'm not huge on guns. They're cool, yeah, but I'm not much of a collector. Revolvers? Revolvers are probably the easiest gun to use. Colt Diamondback. There you go. That's it.
Because within a week, 34 others had joined in, and after a month, there were around 400. This wasn't your casual bobbing up and down neither. This shit made Zumba look like Tai Chi. Here's the best modern day simulation I could find. Now imagine that both of those people were the same person, and you got the dancing.
Chambered in
This would
38
take
special or
all an
22
any
long.
person, let alone a
Ah.
medieval city
Go with the
dweller.
38 special.
Bleeding feet and aching bones, they just kept going. In fact, they went so hard for so long that a good portion straight up fucking died from cardiac arrest. It got to the point where around 15 dancers were kicking the bucket every day before the city decided they had to do something
15?
about it. They managed to rule
That's
out
so many
any
people.
divine or supernatural causes, which was necessary just because, you know, back in medieval times, it was fucking stupid. They eventually surmised that it was a natural disease caused by too much hot blood, as per that whole four humors thing that was popular at the time. As for a cure, their prescription was, get this, more dancing. I can see where they were coming from. It's pretty sound logic. If you got a song stuck in your head, you play it till you're sick of it, same kind of thing. But here's where they goofed.
The authorities actually went out of their way to facilitate the dancing, setting up a big stage area and even hiring musicians to keep the afflicted moving. All this achieved was attracting more passerby who were like, man, mass psychogenic illness looks frickin' epic, let's get in on that, causing the contagion to become even more widespread. Seeing that their solution backfired, the city then went the other way and completely banned any public dancing. Those who still showed signs of the mania were subsequently carted off to the Shrine of St. Vitus, where an exorcism-like ritual was performed on them. This ended up being highly effective,
Y'all want to join the
presumably for no other
MG
reason than that the dancers believed
no
in it.
MPI
After
party?
nearly 2 months, the
You want to
police-
kill La Habrea
This
in 20
bullshit was
seconds?
most likely a case of good
'Cause he's a
old-fashioned
chump?
FBI. Some historians believe it might have been egged on in part by ergotism, a state of psychosis brought on by eating tainted bread, which I talked a little bit about in this video. Ding. And hey, while I'm shilling for my channel, I might as well give a shout out to another as well. Today's video was sponsored by Cheddar, a network focused on producing fascinating content covering topics like technology, products, businesses, and the like through the lens of innovation. Here's one about desire paths, you know, like those lines of dead grass from people taking more
Yeah, but I
convenient
think
routes to
that's
places. It's
22s
one of
is
those
mostly
things that millennials have
accidents.
thought about but never actually explored in depth like this video. Cheddar's full of intriguing stuff like that. I highly recommend giving them a look. If you're more science
Shut up, La Habrea.
they still got you covered with their Cheddar Explorer series. This one's all about how we can be sure if a species is really extinct or not. They talk a bit about animals we thought were gone that suddenly reappeared out of nowhere. Super interesting. Go check it out. Anyway, that's all for today. Till next time, I'm Salmonella, and thank you for watching.
More Sam.
Hey kids, it's Food Friday. So today, I'm going to cover some of the deadly
70
toxins
how's that
found in
level
your
up?
local produce
77?
section. Our first item is rhubarb. Now, the part of the rhubarb that you normally eat, the delicious red stalk, is virtually toxin-free, so no worries there. It's the greenery of the plant that's a cause for
22s are
concern.
cheap, quiet, and
The leaves
readily
of the
available.
rhubarb
True!
plant contains small amounts of oxalic acid, which is toxic to humans. And it's not a fun poison either, not one of those drift off to dreamland types. It will mess your day up, particularly in the digestive and renal areas. Some symptoms include breathing difficulty, burning of the mouth and throat, eye pain, bloody urine, abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, convulsions, coma, and only then will you finally receive the sweet release of death.
Pocky,
For
he
severe
sent you a
digestive
Solaire
problems,
body
you can
pillow.
actually reach the lethality point, about 11 pounds for a 150-pound person. To put that into perspective, the average person eats around 4 pounds of food a day total. So to eat that weight of anything would be very difficult. Next up are almonds. So you know how they say cyanide reeks of
Now let's do
almonds?
something far
Turns
more
out it's
interesting.
actually the other way around. Sweet almonds, the type people normally eat, contain a bit of the toxin, just enough to get a whiff. After eating about a pound of them, you may experience some of the more mild symptoms, which, while they're not exactly fun, aren't quite as bad as oxalic acid. In order for the poison to actually be deadly, you would have to eat around 4
No?
pounds of almonds in the
Go
course
play
of a
Dark
couple
Souls,
hours.
dude.
Considering that's the total food intake daily for an average person, and that you would be vomiting, cramping, and hyperventilating the whole time, it'd be hard to pull off. Next are apple seeds. Most of you are probably familiar with this one. Apple seeds contain cyanogenic glycosides, which are materials that produce cyanide once they enter the digestive system. These chemicals also have a significant presence in a whole menagerie of other
Me
produce
back.
items.
Hi, Snake.
But out of all of these, apple seeds will give you the most bang for your buck as far as potency goes. You would only need around 3.5 ounces of the seeds to do yourself in, which is a lot easier to pull off than the last two. Of course, the whole point of seeds in fruit is so that things will eat them and crap them out elsewhere to spread the plant around, which would be pretty hard to do if the thing carrying your babies keels over and dies. For this reason, the glycosides are only accessible when one crushes the seeds open. Whole seeds are relatively safe. But if you really wanted to off yourself, you could toss 18 apple cores in a blender and drink the whole thing. The most virulent thing you'll find in your entire produce section, however, is none other than the kidney bean. Yes, this innocent-looking legume holds some sinister secrets. Kidney
I don't want to
beans
kill my
contain a
poor
toxin
tank.
known as phytohemochromate.
Nivi
And as little as 4 raw
celery.
grams worth is enough to trigger symptoms. The main sign of kidney bean poisoning is known scientifically as two-tip tummy terrorism. Boiling the beans deactivates the toxin, which is why we can eat them normally. But heating the beans below the boiling point, as in a slow cooker, actually increases
Well, that
the
didn't
toxin
go very
potency
well, did
to
it?
the point where a single heated bean is enough to get you blasting out of both ends. I couldn't actually find any reports on deaths caused by the toxin, probably because everyone who ingests it ends up propelling it away from them at high velocities a few hours
I
later.
like their
But it'll
hat. Where
certainly
did they
make you
get
want
that?
to die, at least. There are a bunch of other minor sources of poison
That's
present
cool.
in your produce
The
dish.
FPS.
I just decided to highlight a few.
I know it's not
Anyway,
great.
I'm Sam Vanilla, and thank you for watching.
By spiking a drink with a kidney bean. Yeah, that would be little bananas. Oops. Here. Bright produce sucks. I think the DPS on this bear is too strong for us to try and
You've probably seen this scene
group
in TV
together.
or movies at some point. A couple of people end up stranded on a desert island, totally isolated from all civilization. It seems like there's no hope for survival, but then one of them looks 3 feet to the left and, oh my god, it's a tree full of fully grown, plump, delicious, smiling, golden-skinned bananas. Amazing. We're saved for the time being. Hey, don't eat those. They're made of lies. See? Listen, why do fruit exist? For a delicious, nutritious snack for humans and animals alike to enjoy?
You know, you didn't have to go throwing him into the sun like that.
You're next, Susan!
How did you know my name?
I created you. Anyway, as most of you probably know, fruit are a thing because nature figured out, hey, if you put a little bit of deliciousness around your seed, it'll
We will be
convince some
known as
idiot
the kidney
bird or
bean
something to carry your
assassins.
baby off to faraway lands, right? But then humans showed up and were like, hey, that's pretty nifty. Listen, is it cool if we selectively breed you for thousands of years to give you horrific deformities to crank up that whole deliciousness part a couple hundred notches? Alright, cool. Let's take a look at bananas, specifically the Cavendish variety that we all know and love. On the inside, we got like 2% seeds, 93% delectable banana meat, and 5% that brown part at the bottom that your mom says is perfectly fine to eat, but you still don't trust. Great for a snack, terrible for reproducing efficiently. Meanwhile, check out the thing on the right here. That's Musa acuminata, one of the suspected ancestors of today's nanners. Much smaller and jam-packed with seeds, with just enough flesh in there to make it worth some smelly primate's time to crack open a yellow one with the boys. Here's another wild-type banana, Musa balbesiana. Less sweet, way starchier, harder to get into, hella seeds, same shit different day really. But hey, if you stick that boy in the ground, you've got an okay chance of making a new banana tree. You bury a modern banana, all you're gonna end up with is a dirty banana. And not that one
Don't let
club
your
banana,
banana get
I mean
dirty.
an actual dirty banana. That's because, like a lot of cultivated fruit, culinary bananas are so inbred and malformed that they can't produce offspring even if they wanted to. So, word of advice for
This
you men out
dude.
there, if ever a lady points out how poorly endowed you are, just show her this JPEG. She'll say, wow, I didn't realize it was so potent and fertile. You really opened my eyes, thank you. Bananas aren't the only
Namocella.
produce to follow this pattern though, not by a long shot. For example, take the watermelon. According to Monsanto, everybody's favorite corporation, the first evidence of human cultivation of the watermelon dates back to Egypt around 5,000 years ago. Back then, they were only 2 inches in diameter, around the size of a tennis ball. The flesh was supposedly tough and bitter, much like that of a tennis ball. Of course, just as the growth of a delicious green baby takes time, so too did the evolution of the modern watermelon. In fact, even as late as the mid-1600s, watermelons looked way different from what we have today, as shown by this painting by Giovanni Stanchi. Notice
Is
the
this man gonna
thicker
try to
line,
tell me
the
how to
seeds
heal?
with weird
I have
science
healed
on the inside. Definitely
this
a cool
entire
skill-like
game.
subject, but ultimately inferior
Not
to
when I
some
started
snack.
for the first
How
like
about
10 or so
vegetables?
hours,
Tell me,
but
do you
quickly
consider
found
cabbage,
healer.
Brussels sprouts, kale, collard greens, broccoli, or cauliflower? I mean, I guess I like broccoli and cauliflower. The rest are kind of gross though. Wrong! All 6 of these vegetables are actually the same thing. That means you like them all. That's not how that works. I'll be good. Anyway, these veggies are all just cultivars.
I'm gonna
of the same
ignore him
species,
because I
Brassica
don't want
oleracea,
to listen.
otherwise known as wild cabbage. Every part of the plant is edible to some extent, but there's not much of it to go around. So a bunch of different people throughout history said, alright, what if we just take one specific part of the plant and go fucking
Just to bug
insane
him.
with it? And that's what they did. Those who bred for giant leaves got kale, going for huge dense flower buds gets you broccoli, juicy engorged lateral leaf buds equal Brussels sprouts, etc. Speaking of segues, let's check out eggplants. The OG
Grab the banana
eggplant
and
was
rub?
first domesticated in India, where it can still be found in the wild today. It looks nothing like an eggplant.
I don't think that's
They
how you
actually
use a
resemble little
banana.
green berries the size of grapes. The only thing it seems to have in common with the classic purple eggplant is how little both of them have in common with an egg. However, if we add the RGB percentage values of their color and merge their shapes, we do get what looks approximately like an egg, so I guess that solves that mystery. This whole transformation really is a testament to man's greatness though. That's like starting out with a frog and selectively breeding them until you end up with Grimace from McDonald's lore. Speaking of which, did you know Grimace used to be evil and have 4 arms? This is a real thing. I'd like to think that when they lopped off his extra limbs, all his evil energy went with
Tell
him,
me your
and now there's
secrets.
just 2
Is
plump
it that
purple
this stream is
sandals skipping
bad?
around
Because
the
yes, it
countryside
is.
waiting to pull unsuspecting kids under ball pits, never to be seen again. That's just my McDonald's headcanon though. Anyway, back to whatever we were talking about. Next is corn, or sorry, maize. I call it corn like a normal person. If it was supposed to be called maize, these would be called mazes. Obviously, that's like the perfect opportunity, but they're not, so put an etymological sock in it. Or stocking. Anyway, I was totally expecting old corn to look like those baby corns you find in Chinese food and literally nowhere else. Turns out those actually
I'm
aren't
aware.
baby corns. One suspected ancestor of corn is known as Teosinte, which looks like this. Gee whiz, Sam, that sure does look like garbage. Good eye, Billy. That's because it was garbage. Whereas modern corn has a kernel count in the hundreds, Teosinte only has 5 to 12, with each one being encased in a hard shell that's basically impossible to get into short of boiling it or chipping a tooth. The fact that people decided to domesticate it in the first place makes sense once you realize that most grains are basically the same thing. But honestly, that just makes me wish people figured out how to turn a piece of wheat into a big chunk of whatever to gnaw on. This whole thing disappointed me so much that I actually moved it to the top of my list of reasons not to visit the Mayans if I ever get a time machine. Nonetheless, as you can see, human endeavor can accomplish amazing things. And just as a few thousand years of selective breeding can turn this into this, a few hours of learning a week can turn you into, you know, a more talented and interesting version of you. And what better way to do that than with Skillshare.com? Skillshare is an online learning community with over 22,000 classes in technology, design, business, and more. Premium membership gives you unlimited access to high-quality classes on must-know topics so you can improve your skills, unlock new opportunities, and do the work you love. They've got great courses in just about any creative pursuit you can think of. I used to be totally musically illiterate until I took this course. Then I made this. What about food? You like food?
You know, you're right. I should
With
stay hydrated.
Skillshare,
My mouth is
you
dry.
can make your own macaroons, fresh pasta, spring rolls, whatever. Join the millions of students already learning on Skillshare today with a special offer just for my viewers, where you can get 2 months of Skillshare for free. To sign up, go
Florida
to
is a very loud
skl.sh/samo2.
place.
Thank you.
Again, for those in the back, go to skl.sh/samo2 to get
Not
2 months of
really.
unlimited access to over
Not
22,000
not
classes
really
for
big on
free.
cars
Act now for this
specifically.
special offer
I
and
do
start
like
learning today. Anyway, till next
they're
time,
cool, I
I'm
guess.
Salmonella, and thank you for watching.
And the only car I really know how to work on is my own piece of poop. Because I have to revive it. Often.
Mentorship. What the?
Animal skeletons. Run!
This video is sponsored by Skillshare.
Hey kids, as we all know, the evolution of species is an incredible process, driven by little more than the random chance that certain mutations may happen to provide a practical advantage in a creature's environment. And as a result, there's a lot of things out there that look super dumb once you strip back a few layers. Here's the top 10 worst animal skeletons of all time. So first and foremost, I'd like to settle a little debate I've been seeing floating around the past few weeks.
I played Need for Speed when I was a
penguins
child.
do, in fact, have knees. But in order to hide full-grown legs into one plump cylinder, you gotta have a
It was
little
fun.
skeletal trick.
I liked Carbon a
You
lot.
guys ever do wall sits in gym
And then the
class
first
or elsewhere?
most
One of
wanted
those
game was
wondrous
pretty good. The
exercises
second
I
one
now
is not
put
great.
even worse for penguins, because not only did they have to deal with living in a frigid black and white hellscape, the most hostile environment known to man second only to the vacuum of space, all the while constantly pursued by ravenous, bloodthirsty sea dogs, but they're also secretly doing wall sits their entire life. Quick side note, in Mandarin, the word for penguin consists of the characters for business goose, which is fucking hilarious. Like one day a goose put on a suit and said, "Today it is time to make a name for myself, honk." This next guy is known as Parsons Chameleon, found in the more remote regions of Madagascar. Notice the fleshy protuberances around its nose area. Turns out, not fleshy, not even remotely fleshy, not even one flesh. Instead, it just has a skull forever frozen in time in the middle of exploding, like it sneezed right in the middle of God shaping it out of clay, and he was just like, ah, whatever, it's a feature now. So for that, this rough-headed reptilian gets number 9. Normally I would have ranked it higher, but that's a dope tail, so he gets some pity points. Next is the pufferfish. So for most of my life, I've pictured pufferfish as just not having any bones. I know it doesn't really make sense, but neither does them turning into a balloon like a goddamn cartoon. Turns out, in their normal state, they actually look like this, and when they inflate, those concentric rings of spine slide outwards past one another to cover the full area, like the aperture of a camera lens expanding to cover the full frame of the fish. The sheer ingenuity of this design has shattered my childhood dream of real-life balloon animals, which has earned the pufferfish the number 8 spot on this list. Now, if you've gotten around to certain zoological circles, you've been shown this skull and been told, ah yes, that comes from the dwarf elephant. Oh, you've never seen one? That's because they're extinct. And that
Well,
thing
but
in the
doesn't
middle,
White
ah,
Mage
yes,
have
nothing
thin
more than
hair?
the nose hole to which the trunk connects. However, if you're a rational, free-thinking adult like me, you can look past the lies spoon-fed to you by Nat Geo and other liberal media outlets and see this for what it is: a cyclops. Next is the orca, otherwise known as the killer whale, the panda torpedo, or the SeaWorld slave. Its skeleton is fairly normal at first glance, but check out this little thing under here. That little bony blip is actually all that remains of the legs and pelvis of the orca from when it evolved from land mammals. Personally, I think that's highly disrespectful to their ancestors. Like, they could have taken the seal route and used those legs for good in the water, but instead these sea cowards said, no thanks, we're gonna undo all that evolution and just be bigger, smarter, warmer fish again. But hey, we'll keep this little piece of nothing just to remember you guys by. Truthfully, I could have chosen almost any cetacean to pick on for this, but the orca's face also reminds me of SCP-682.
See, these guys are playing the game seriously. I'm just fucking playing the game.
Number 6 spot. Moving on.
It's
Now
like,
bear with me here. Every
at
other
6K
man
mana, do this, do that, blah 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 blah.
from the
Like,
gum
just let
to
me
the
hit
mouth,
2
you know,
and
like
1,
two. But
and
this guy,
then
known as the
control
Babarusa,
2.
said, "Huh," and decided to have them grow up through the entirety of its fucking snoot and out the other end, which is the most nonsensical thing I've ever seen.
I don't know what the
Toenails
best.
out
There's
the
too
front,
many.
How cliche. Let's make them go through the whole foot instead. Look, now I can kick good behind me. That's not all though. These tusks also keep growing for the creature's entire life, which isn't a problem in and of itself.
Sweats.
Right? Rodents, they keep chewing
Indeed.
stuff to wear them down. Alligators, they just let them fall out now and then. But the Babarusa's like, I'll just nut in a lady pig long before this becomes an issue. So if it lives long enough, the teeth can curve right on around and slowly bore into the thing's face, like built-in Chinese bamboo torture. And occasionally, they can end up actually piercing the skull and shish kebabbing the brain. Now some people might say that this doesn't belong on this list, given that teeth aren't technically bones. And to those people, kids, we say, eat shit and die. Next we have the octopus. The octopus skeleton is so bad that it doesn't even exist. Sure, they got this little thing in the middle, but that doesn't count, that's just chitin. And yeah, they can get in a jar or whatever, but at what cost? At the animal picnics, the crowd shouts, bleh, shun the spineless freak. And at the animal wheelbarrow races, with nothing to grab hold of, the cephalopod holds
So
a
you
solitary
good?
vigil
If you
at
don't
the
mind a
starting line.
tip,
And
use
lo, the
regen when
octopus
tank
wins
has
not, but
is
a
at high
participant medal
HP.
at the Grand
It's
Prix
when it's safe
and
to
a
use
number
it. Should
4
suffice
spot
over spamming
on this
cure
list.
1.
Moving on, here's the skeleton of a fruit bat. Now,
I don't
no
care.
offense to
I
those
mean,
regular
I
folk,
appreciate the
imagine if
advice,
humans
but
had no
I don't
context for
care.
bats and they dug this thing up. Like, class, archaeologists have recently found these fossilized remains, and using modern technology, we can see exactly what it would have looked like back when it was alive. This abominable creature is known only to scientists as Finger Boy, and is theorized to have fed upon fruit, insects, and the dreams of orphans, which it
Poor
would
Finger
siphon out
Boy.
from the ears of the errant little waifs whilst they slumbered. By the way, if you Google image bat skeleton, like, more than half of them have the ears built in, just like, I feel the extraordinarily bat-like wings and figure of our decoration are much too subtle for our consumers. Better slap these on. At number 2, we have the anteater. From its oboe-like skull to its gorilla fist and hands, one can only wonder who let this creature exist. Fun fact, if you take the anteater's skull and blow into its nose, it plays a beautiful song recounting the animal's entire life, and then security escorts you out of the museum. Looking at this, I can only pose the question asked for generations long before my own. That being, why the long face? Before we get to the number 1 spot, here's a few honorable mentions. The wolf eel. The ostrich. This human-cat hybrid I found on a tabloid site. And of course, the mermaid. So at our number 1 spot, we have this creature, That's supposed to be a mirror. I know most of you can't see yourself in it on account of your filthy Dorito-smeared screen, so just take my word for it. So what's wrong with humans, you ask? Well, a lot of things, but for now, let's stick to the skeleton. First off, these bones right here, these are known as the metatarsals, all part of the foot, right? No, that's a bunch of primate propaganda. In most other groups of land mammals, what we'd consider our ankles is actually the quote-unquote
Finger
video
boy,
game. Thanks a lot,
indeed.
walking upright. Also, it's estimated that around 80% of people will experience chronic back pain at some point in their life. Thanks a lot, walking upright. Lastly, probably something you've heard about at some point, our skull to pelvis ratio. For most animals, giving birth, not a big deal. Small heads, wide hips, mazel tov. But check out the big brain on Brett. Throws a real monkey wrench in the works there. For a while it led to some problems till those extra brains figured out how to work around it. So I guess you win this round, humans. But that doesn't stop you from also winning the #1 spot on the worst skeletons of all time. But hey, just because you'll forever be flawed on the inside doesn't mean you can't improve yourself on the outside. That's why you need to try Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with over 25,000 classes in design, business, technology, and more. Premium membership gives you unlimited access to high-quality classes on must-know topics, so you can improve your skills, unlock new opportunities, and do the work you love. For all my life, I thought I knew how to make a grilled cheese. Then I saw this class, and I realized I didn't. Now I do again.
Alright,
Those
engaging the
minutes between
think.
seeing the thumbnail and finishing the course were a dark time in my life. But let's say you don't like grilled cheese. Well, you must be either vegan or dead, and either way, you probably smell terrible. What better way to soak up that earthy must in your home than with a hand-selected houseplant known to improve air quality? You can even put googly eyes on it. Aw, it's like I have a friend. Join the more than 7 million people already learning on Skillshare today with a special offer just for my viewers. Everyone who visits the link in the description can get 2 months of unlimited access to the 25,000 plus classes on Skillshare for absolutely free. So please, put down that bone broth and start sipping some brain juice today. Anyway, that's all for today. Till next time, I'm Salmonella, and I'm still scared of swine flu.
Oh, this one. This one is mildly horrible. Let's go. Let's go.
Hey kids, had a bad day? Well, could be worse. You could be living in a world without modern anesthetic. Today, we'll be talking about some surgical procedures carried out long before the development of medicine as we know it today. Now, once you go back a certain distance, the line between operation and mutilation is pretty thin. So, for our purposes, surgery refers to any bodily manipulation carried out with the intent of fixing some injury or illness. And away we go. The very first surgery that we have historical evidence for dates as far back as 6500 BC. It's called trepanning, which is a nice word for carving someone's frickin' skull open using nothing but a rock. Maybe a rock on a stick if you were lucky. In all seriousness though, you can see that a good deal of care went into the procedure, which lets us know that this isn't just the result of random injury. Many skulls even showed signs of healing around the holes, meaning plenty of the people who underwent this whole thing just got up and went about their day afterwards. Alright, hold on, you say. This all sounds guano insane. No way this was that common of an occurrence. Well, friend, if you've been watching this channel long enough, you should know that if you give human beings the benefit of the doubt, chances are they'll prove you wrong. In fact, so far, over 1,500 Japan skulls have been dug up all across the globe, from Europe to China and even the Americas. This means that between 5 and 10% of all skulls that we've found from the Neolithic period have had at least one man-made hole scraped into them. To put it this way, based on that data, there's a greater probability of someone born in the late Stone Age having their brain matter exposed by some shaman with a chunk of flint than someone born in the USA being a redhead. To this day, nobody really knows why this was such a common practice, but most theories tend to revolve around the idea of releasing some kind of dark supernatural force from the patient. Man, I'm getting real sick of all these evil entities infecting our minds and bodies. Huh, you can say that again. I tell you, I need these demons like I need a hole in the head. No way. Fast forward to 600 BC. Over in India, there lived a guy called Maharshi Susruta. Now, this guy was a medical mastermind. He wrote a treatise known as Susruta Samhita, which described countless different conditions, treatments, and yes, even surgeries, one of which is the first recorded instance of rhinoplasty. That means nose job. A hornbill's a type of bird. I'm here too. Anyway, here's how it's done according to Susruta. First, you get them plastered, obviously. Second, you use a leaf to measure out the part of the nose you want fixed. Then, you use the leaf to cut off a flap of skin from the cheek or forehead of the patient. This part's important though. You gotta remember to leave a little piece of it still attached. Otherwise, you just got a chunk of dirty dead face meat on your hands. Now, wherever you're looking to stick the new flesh on, you rub that part raw with a knife. Also, you're gonna want to stick 2 plant stalks in their nostrils so their nose keeps its proper shape. Slap the skin on, suture it, dust it with licorice powder for some reason, and cover it with cotton. Sesame oil should be regularly applied until the skin is fully healed. If you're like me, you already do that by default, so it shouldn't be an issue. Finally, at long last, your sniffer is reborn. Don't worry, you still look like a freak, just slightly less so. Moving on, our next surgery took place in 10th century Spain on Sancho I of Leon, otherwise known as Sancho the Fat. Now, normally back in the day, having some meat on your bones was a sign of wealth and power and all that, but this guy was like TLC documentary tier, to the point where he could hardly function as a human being. So his constituents said, "Greetings, your thickness. Yeah, you can't be king anymore on account of you keep breaking every horse we give you, and nobody wants to wash between your accordion-like neck folds no more." After his adipose got him deposed, Sancho decided to seek medical help for his condition, under the oversight of well-reputed physician Hasdai ibn Shaprut, which is an anagram for paintbrush aids. Now, if there's one thing that medieval man understood,
Paintbrush
it's
aids.
practicality. Lap band, gastric bypass, belly balloon, these all exist to help people who don't have the self-control to stop eating so much on their own.
Cool.
But Dr. Shaprut didn't believe in beating around the bush. He said, well, why don't we just stop the patient from shoving food into his own greasy maw in the first place, and decided to just up and stitch the dude's lips together. After the operation, the only nutrients that Sancho received came through a straw, in the form of a mixture known as thoriaca, which was a complex blend of several herbs, fruits, and seeds, including opium. It was basically the closest thing you could find to lean at the time, and lean he became, losing around half his weight before ascending to the throne once more. So this is the part of the video where I pander to the desires of the audience. If there's one thing I know you internet people can't get enough of, it's things going inside people's eyeballs. Let's talk about cataract surgery. The art of dealing with people's clouded lenses has been around for millennia, believe it or not. That Sushruta guy from earlier actually talked about the most common procedure for cataracts for most of civilized history, which is known as the couching method. Couching is done by taking a sharp object like a needle or a thorn and ever so gently stabbing their eye hole at weird angles until the lens moves out of the way. No lasers, no sedatives, no paralytics, just a rusty old pin and some elbow grease, the way God intended. The majority of the time, this operation didn't work, usually just damaging the already blind eye irreparably. Shocker, right? And even if it did go as planned, you still, didn't have a lens in your eye. So you essentially went from, I can't tell if I'm dead or not, to, ah yes, it is quite yellow out today. God, something moved somewhere. A slightly more refined version of this operation is the suction method, which dates back to at least the 10th century AD, if not older. This procedure is described as requiring, quote, a large incision in the eye, a hollow needle, and an assistant with an extraordinary lung capacity. Though this reads like the setup to the world's most horrifying party trick, it's actually the bare minimum number of tools needed to completely extract the lens from the eye. In case you didn't pick up on how, here's a diagram. This method generally saw a greater success rate and fewer complications than its non-extracting counterpart. So hopefully you can sleep well tonight knowing that the number of human beings who have sucked a piece of somebody's living eyeball through a straw is above zero. Anywho, let's all just be thankful that we live in an era where procedures like these are a thing of the past.
This is
Now,
incredibly
remember,
exciting, I
kids,
know.
even though the
This is
surgeries I
a great
described here
stream.
do sound pretty easy to pull off. Please don't try them at home. But if you do, please put it on LiveLeak afterwards. But you know what you can do at home? Learn stuff about things with Brilliant.org. Brilliant's elegant UI and step-by-step design makes learning seemingly complex topics very intuitive, especially for visual learners like me. Don't think you can understand special relativity? With Brilliant, I bet you can. I'm just some kid in a room somewhere, and even I got the basics. Check this out. Relativistic laser tag. Don't tell me that doesn't sound fun. Then later when you're talking to your friends, you can be like, yeah, I'm taking a course in special relativity right now. No big deal. Maybe gonna hit quantum objects in a couple weeks. So to support me,
Pocky's
broaden
just
your
sent me
understanding
ads
of
for
math and
cars.
science, go to brilliant.org/salmonella and sign up for free. Also, the first 200 people that
On
go to
Facebook
that link will get
Marketplace,
20%
I'm
off the
assuming.
annual premium subscription. Anyway, till next time, I'm Salmonella, and watch you for thanking. Wait, shit, I meant...
Yay, we did it. Animal planets. Nice, thank you, Pocky.
Hey kids, it's Wildlife
I will look at
Wednesday.
those longingly.
So today I decided to make some animal planets. No, not that animal planet. What I mean is, if you took every member of a certain group of animals and just like rolled
There you
them
go.
into a single ball in space, how big would that sphere be? And I got some interesting answers. But before I show you my findings, I'll quickly go over my
They left
process.
me,
So first, I found the full population of a given
and I was a
creature or
little
set
bit of a
creatures.
bitch.
Then I would take the
So they did
average
not
weight
give
of
me
that
any,
creature and multiply the two together to get the total mass
commendations.
of that creature on Earth. To go
Yeah.
from mass to volume, however, you still need the density of whatever you're measuring. Fortunately, the density of all animals is quite similar, partly due to the fact that the vast
Now
majority
what?
of creatures are at least 70% water by weight. Couple that with the fact that the ratio of fat, muscle, and bone or exoskeleton in all creatures is at least vaguely similar, and we can estimate the density of all animals to be around the same. Water is exactly 1
I don't really know what to
kilogram
do.
per liter, and then I'm throwing in a plus or minus 0.1 as a rounding error for the other material.
I need to get caught. I
As such,
need to
the
get caught
values
up
at
with the
play here
like
are going to
plot
have
so I
two
can start
significant figures at most. I've included a link into
Endwalker
the
when it comes
description
out.
to a spreadsheet with all my data and calculations. Quick disclaimer before we get started, a lot of this is based on estimation, particularly in the case of animal population. It's actually quite difficult to get a definitive count of a given animal on Earth, so all of the following is simply based on science's best guesses. Also, this is by no means a comprehensive list, it's just those that I could find the most reliable data on. One more clarification, the amount of specificity I give is the amount I apply to a given sphere, right? So whereas a blue whale sphere is just that one species, an ant sphere would cover all types of ants. That being said, let's roll.
We
First
have
up is
met
the blue
Quake.
whale sphere. Although they are freaking gigantic, there is only like
We do have
10,000
net
of them
Quake.
on Earth. So the sphere only
Here.
came out to around 140 meters in diameter. That's about the same height as the Great Pyramid. A bit larger than that is the elephant sphere, which came out to around 170 meters. Next up is the domesticated cat sphere at around 180. That's only slightly smaller than the Roman Colosseum, which was 190 in diameter. Next up is the camel sphere at around 260 meters. Slightly larger was the domesticated dog sphere at 280. Then the chicken sphere at 330. The horse sphere is at 370 meters in diameter. Larger than that was the ant sphere, which came down to around 420.
Sorry, Sam. I have to kill you. Ah, so loud. Let's go. Oh, wait. There we go. We do have Netquake. You know what? Let's not go hard. Let's just go normal. Huh? First episode, Dimension of the Doomed. Okay. Pack 1. What do I need pack 1 for? We are playing Netquake. Oh, no, you don't need to do that. We're not playing the entirety of Quake in like an hour. Or less than that, actually. But we will play some of Quake. Because Quake is good. see if I remember where the hell I'm going. I'm green! Incredible. Oh, it does? Nice. Oh, I do have my weapons. Don't know why you'd want the axe instead of the shotgun, but you know. Also, that turns on my that. Oh, dang. I forgot they could do that. Water. Bubble Daryl. Where did I go? Quack. Oh no. We're Bhutan. Oh, this is a secret. This is not where I need to be. Oh. Well, that's not very helpful. Damn it. Trust me, one day I won't be bad at Quake. But that day is not today. What was that? Oh! I don't know where I'm going with this. This is where I came from. No, I don't have... Dang. What am I missing? Do you know where to go? Maybe I missed a turn over here? No? I do not know where we're going. Nah. Nope. I don't know. I don't know where stuff is. I fear I may be a moron. I need the silver key. Snake, help me. I'm stupid. Oh. I found it. That's rude. Okay, I don't know what that did. Anything special in here? Oh, you can use control to shoot too. No. No. Shush, Snake. I'm exactly where I intended to be. Nope. Why does my mouse keep doing that? Please. Red icons, be shot. Oh. Thank you. Oh, dang. Please go away, Shambler. I can't imagine the pain. Playing Quake? I am playing Quake. Netquake, specifically. So it's free. Just go to netquake.io and you can play it. That was rude. Meh. I don't know what's going on with my camera. Doesn't Half-Life, the original, run on the Quake engine? That's okay. Source Engine? No, that's Half-Life 2. And they did remake the original Half-Life in Source, but that's Half-Life Source. I need the gold key. Gold source? Oh, I see. Oh. Circle acquired. Maybe I missed a turn. No. Oh. Poor boys. Do they really? Oh. Good to know. I will not be back for you. They look kind of like batfish. Oh, I hit the button. Where are we? It's very beginning. Ugh. Okay. Well, it's 11. And it's been a bit, and now I'm getting, but I think I'm gonna call it here and go to bed. But thank you everyone who's hanging out.